So it's a new month beginning, and we'll be fasting, those who are following it, will be fasting from milk. Oh my goodness. Milk fast, Chatumas. And the yogurt fast will end. But I don't know if you've been following it. But if you have, it's supposed to be. I don't know if it starts today or tomorrow, it's all very vague. But more or less like that. So I thought we'd start with, what we'll start with here. That's that one. And we'll start with singing a bit of the song. I don't know if you can get it on the screen. Prayer unto the lotus feet of Krishna.
Yes, Krishna.
Got it? Just try to sing a few verses from this if we can. This was a Bengali song, poem, compiled by Srila Prabhupada on board the Jaladuta. It was on the ocean. And it was on September the 13th, 1965. How many years ago was that?
16.
Almost to the day, isn't it? What is it, 6th today or something? 7th. So almost 60 years ago to the day, Srila Prabhupada, we don't know the Vedic calendar, we're talking the Western one here, compiled this poem, come song, whatever. It's called Prayer unto the Lotus Feet of Krishna. And in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, Srila Prabhupada was feeling separation, you could say, from Vrindavan, where he'd left to go to the West. I'll read the first few verses, first 4. We'll just read the first 4. O brother, Krishna, I emphatically say to you that when you perform this pious act, I don't know what type of translation this is.
We don't have the same.
No, what does it say?
The Supreme Lord Krishna will bestow virtue upon you.
Can you read it? Is there something wrong here, I think? Read it.
Oh, brothers, the Supreme Lord Krishna will bestow virtue upon you.
Yeah.
But he will do this only when Srimati Radharani first become pleased with you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Otherwise it says, O brother Krishna, I emphatically say to you, that's a capital Y, as if your brother, Krishna is your brother. I'm not sure, but that's really what it's meant to be. Anyway, I think what you've got there is probably more appropriate. Anyway, I hope the rest are okay. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is very dear to Lord Chaitanya, the son of Mother Shachi, is unparalleled in rendering expert service to Lord Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master, most magnanimous within the universe, who bestows devotional service to Krishna in various places throughout the world. His desire is very powerful, and thus he is causing the holy name of Lord Gauranga to manifest throughout the countries of the Western world, in all the cities, towns, and villages of the earth, extending to all the oceans, rivers, and streams. Everyone is chanting the holy name of Krishna. They will become so blissful, chanting, that all directions will be conquered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's abundant mercy. When all the miserable living entities in the world who have been tormented by Maya become truly happy, then the Vaishnava's desire will be fulfilled. Although my Guru Maharaj ordered me to undertake this mission, I am unworthy to do it, being very fallen and incompetent. This being the case, O Lord Krishna, today I am begging for your mercy to make me worthy of such a task, for your wisdom is supreme. We just try to sing the first 4 verses of this compilation. We don't have a higher table, do we?
Yes, we
It would be difficult reading at such a long distance. Yeah, maybe we could use that one there. Thank you. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Hey Punya Karibe Jabe Radharani Kushi Habe Gurvati Bori Tomatai. Hey Punya Karibe Jabe Radharani Kushi Habe Gurvati Bori Tomatai. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Shri Saranta Saraswati Sachi Sutta Priyati Krishna Sevayaya Rasulanai. Shri Saranta Saraswati Sachi Sutta Priyati Krishna Sevayaya Rasulanai. Say say Mahanta Guru Jagatera Madhya Guru Krishna Bhakti De Krishna Bhakti Deya Tahitai. Say say Mahanta Guru Jagatera Madhya Guru Krishna Bhakti Deya Tahitai. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Taicha Balavan Pashatyete Tantan Hayaya Gurangaranam. Taicha Balavan Pashatyete Tantan Pritiviti Nagaradi Asamudra Nadi Nadi Sakaleya Laya Krishna. Sakaleya Laya Krishna. Krishna Tabe Punya Beba. Krishna Tava Punya Beba. Tahale Ananda Hai Tabe Haya Digvijay Chaitanya Rakhipati Shai. Tahale Ananda Hai Tabe Haya Digvijay Chaitanya Rakhipati Shai. Maya Dushta Yatta Dukhi Jagate Asabai Sukhi Vaishnavera Itcha Punahai. Maya Dushta Yatta Dukhi Jagate Asabai Sukhi Vaishnavera Itcha Punahai. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Sekaya Yakari Bare Hagaya Ditile More Yoga Nahi Ati Dinahina. Sekaya Yakari Bare Hagaya Ditile More Yoga Nahi Ati Dinahina. Tai se Tomara Kripa Jagite Che Anurupa Ki Tumi Sabara Bhavena. Tai se Tomara Kripa Jagite Che Anurupa Ki Tumi Sabara Bhavena. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Krishna Tava Punya Habe. Hey Punya Kori Bejabe Radharani Krushi Habe, Dubati Boli Tomatai. Krishna Tava Punya Habe Bye. 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastachade Shatarine Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Tapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Prabhupada Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'm going to read the English of one verse from the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this Chaitanya Charitamrita, as you may well be aware, was described by Srila Prabhupada when he was on the boat going to the America as the nectarine of his life. The most nectarian thing, an English, funny English word, it doesn't exist, of his life. Sometimes Prabhupada would create English words to fit the meaning. So this was the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we start, since today is the anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's sannyas, is also the anniversary of the elder brother of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepting the order of sannyas on this day. Not much is described about the details of Vishvarup's accepting sannyas. Sometimes it says he's accepted it from Lakshmipati Tirtha. Other times we hear Madhavendra Puri, but whoever it is. He entered into that renounced order of life. So this verse you may not be able to follow what I'm going to try to speak today, because I'm going to be reading various quotes which I compiled here and there, and in relation to Prabhupada's acceptance of sannyas. But this one is about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's brother Vishvarupa. Vishvarupa left home with that wandering mendicant, and that was the last time. He didn't come back home again. His parents were overwhelmed naturally with distress, great distress. Lord Chaitanya tried to console them. And this is one of the verses which he spoke to his parents. Adi Leela, chapter 15, text 14. He said to his mother and father, my dear mother and father, the Lord said, it is very good that Vishvarup has accepted the sannyas order, for thus he has delivered both his father's family and his mother's family. Purport. It is sometimes said that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disapproved of the acceptance of the sannyas order in this Kali Yuga, because in the Shastras it is said, Ashvamedam Gavalambam Sannyasam Palapaitrikam Devarena Satotpating Kalo Pancha Vivarjayet. It's also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden: the offering of a horse in sacrifice, the offering of a cow in sacrifice. They accept those two, probably not so difficult to relate with. The acceptance of the order of sannyas, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. So they are forbidden in this age. So one assumes in other ages that they were, under certain circumstances, permissible or performed. It wasn't just for the sake of, doing it. It was for a higher purpose in every case. But they're forbidden. This is in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. And therefore one wonders, as amongst the other four, you can probably relate, pretty easily to the fact that they're forbidden. But this one's a bit mysterious because we see that sannyas is still, I wouldn't say prominent, but it's still present in this age. Of course, not just in our line, but the Mayavad sannyas is very common, and other lines also. They award the order of sannyas. The Swami Narayan order have many sannyasis. There are many sannyasis here and there. So Lord Chaitanya himself accepted the sannyas order, and he approved of this. So, but here's some explanations of what it means. Let's see where we go. It's not a contradiction exactly, it's a deeper understanding of the meaning. It is recommended that one accept sannyas to dedicate his life for the service of the Lord. And everyone must take this kind of sannyas. Here Prabhupada says everyone should take it. Whereas we've just heard that it is forbidden. So there's a little difference in what the statement sounds a little contradictory. For by accepting such sannyas, one renders the best service to both his paternal and maternal families. We're not going to stop for questions, but we're going to have some answers from Prabhupada in a minute, more clearly at least. But when Prabhupada said one shouldn't accept the sannyas order of the Mayavad school. So that's one thing, this Mayavad sannyas, which is basically speaking the order where you kind of relate to the fact that now I have become God, Narayan. So that's to be rejected. There's other types of sannyas which are also referred to here. Traditionally, sannyas was sannyas, karma sannyas, jnana sannyas. Mayavad is, you could say, in the area of jnana sannyas. But the karma sannyas, which is a varnashram order of almost, not formality by any means, but a common affair of the Brahminical order of life, that at a certain stage of life the man would accept sannyas according to the standard of karma sannyas, based upon material considerations, age, varna ashram, and so on. And generally speaking, they would be kind of like, hereditary or family gurus and so on and so forth, or just for whatever reason. But that's not the sannyas that Lord Chaitanya is talking about here. Although it is one of the items, of course, of varnashram, one of the orders, the leading order of varnashram is the sannyas order. But it's not just like that. There's a famous verse in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 23rd chapter, 57th verse. And this is one, and it's known as the sannyas verse. It's a verse which is generally given to the sannyas candidate at initiation to chant regularly. And this is the prayer of the Avanti Brahmana. And we'll read a bit, maybe we won't read the purport, but you can read the purport yourself if you want. 11, 23, 57. Have you got it? They're on the board. Etang sa astaya paratmanishtam adyashitang purvatamair maharshibi ahang tarishyami duranta param tamo mukundang rini shevayaiva. You haven't got the Veda base? You don't have the Veda base on your computer, Ekanath?
Yeah, but it was pretty fast, Maharaj. So
Pardon?
It was really, I was not ready.
Oh, no problem. 11, 23, 57. I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nescience by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna.
57.
This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Quite different to the Mayavadi understanding of sannyas. I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nescience by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's also quoted that verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, you won't follow anything else which I'm going to be speaking. I'll be finished with it before you find it. Maybe at the end there will be something you can follow. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. So these are different statements Prabhupada made in different places about this subject matter. Mostly from, well, they're all from either lectures, purports, or conversations, or something like that. I don't have all the references here, but they can easily be obtained. Prabhupada writes, one who works devotedly for the satisfaction of Krishna is a sannyasi. The dress is not sannyas, but the attitude of service to Krishna is. That's what sannyas is, the attitude of service. Not an order, it isn't, you can say it's defined as an order of life in the varnashram system, but in reality, it is a state of consciousness, the attitude of service. As we just heard from the Avanti Brahmin. It's interesting, at the beginning of the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada writes in the preface there that every devotee should become a Goswami and then become a pure devotee. It's not you become a pure devotee by becoming a Goswami, as you may know the word Goswami, but in the real sense of the term, yes, because a Goswami is one who's completely engaged in their senses in the service of Krishna. They don't try to act independent of Krishna's will. So the first verse of Nectar Instruction is aimed at that principle of sannyasa. Controlling one's senses means to engage them in service of Krishna. Rishikena Rishikesha Bhakti Seva Uchate. It's not a matter of just controlling one's senses. That doesn't make one a sannyasi in the real sense. Maybe the Mayavadis would see it like that. But it's actually to be engaged in the service of Krishna. Those who are completely dedicated to the lotus feet of Krishna in service are actually sannyasis. So whatever our gender may be, whatever our material situation may be, if we're fully engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, one's considered a sannyasi, which in the real sense of the term means, one who's renounced or given up all ideas of being the enjoyer. Prabhupada, now these are some conversations. This is in January 73. Prabhupada says, he poses questions, so what is that sannyas? Karishe vachanam tava. Yes, I'll fight. This is Bhagavad Gita, 1873. That's all. So this is sannyas. Arjuna took sannyas. He didn't take the order of sannyas. Kshatriyas do not take the order of sannyas. Only Brahmins take the order of sannyas in the varnashram system. On a higher level, anyone can, in one sense, at least anyone, Vedically speaking, or even according to our tradition, any male can take sannyas if they're deemed qualified. Whatever that is, another topic we'll come to. So this renouncement, Prabhupada continues, for preaching Krishna consciousness. That is real sannyas. For preaching Krishna consciousness, that's why. So this sannyas means do not care for personal sense gratification. Oh, this is inconvenience. This is convenience. So this type of judgmentalism is not the business of a sannyasi. You just have to use common sense when it comes to certain acts of physical maintenance or like that. But simply go on preaching Krishna consciousness. So this is sannyas. Go on preaching. And Prabhupada in Tokyo, 72, said, taking sannyas from this day, my vow to serve Krishna is more fixed up, steady. Sannyas means to give up this false concept of bodily concept of life and surrender. Nyas. Nyas means renounce. Renounce everything for the sake of Krishna, the absolute person. This is called sannyas. Actually, this is the beginning of my liberated activity. The beginning. And another time Prabhupada said, this is from San Francisco in 75. So therefore, sannyas order means one that dedicates his whole life by word, by body, by mind, everything. Body, word, and mind. Or body, mind, and words. Put it whichever way. We call it BMW. When you take sannyas, you get a BMW. Okay? That's the rod. They represent 4 sticks, actually. And one is the surrender of one's body, mind, and words in the service of Krishna. Prabhupada goes on, so this is our life. Everyone should take sannyas, but because it is Kali Yuga, it is restricted, because it is very difficult. But as far as possible, we have to preach the Krishna consciousness. So although it is a little difficult, so we should practice it, especially those who are in Krishna consciousness movement. And for preaching work, should take sannyas. The preaching. Oh, you can preach in any situation. It depends. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur recommends remaining a grihastha as a more favorable situation to both practice and spread Krishna consciousness. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj preached like that too. Prabhupada. Sannyas means that finishing all material desires. The sannyas means, real sannyas means no more material desires. It is the beginning of spiritual life. The sannyasi should go door to door. So to enlighten them, it is the duty of the sannyasi to go from door to door, country to country, just to teach them about the aim of life. But we should always remember that sannyas means material activity is finished. This is sannyas, no more material activity, only for the service of Krishna to live, that's all. And in Vrindavan in 75, Prabhupada said, without becoming a brahmana, nobody can become a sannyasi. And sannyasi is supposed to be the guru of both all the ashrams and all the varnas. So the preaching work, we require so many sannyasis. And I don't know where this is. Another quote of Prabhupada here. Oh no, this is, now we're coming on. This is a lecture Prabhupada gave. Srila Prabhupada gave this lecture in Seattle in 1968 on the occasion of the disappearance day of his sannyas, the Bhakti Bhajan Keshra Maharaj, who gave Srila Prabhupada the sannyas order of life, one of his godbrothers. Prabhupada says, one has to accept the renounced order of life from another person who is in a renounced order. I never thought that I should accept the renounced order of life. In my family life, when I was in the midst of my wife and children, sometimes I was dreaming that my spiritual master was calling me and I was following him. When my dream was over, I was thinking, I was a little horrified. Oh, Guru Maharaj wants me to become a sannyasi. How can I accept sannyas? At that time I was feeling not very much satisfaction that I have to give up my family and become a mendicant. At that time it was a horrible thing. Sometimes I was thinking, no, I cannot take sannyas. But again I saw the same dream. So in this way, I was fortunate, my Guru Maharaj. And Prabhupada began to cry. He pulled me out from this material life. For moments Prabhupada could not speak. Everyone present saw tears pouring from his eyes. Then he spoke further. Although the occasion was the passing away of the person who awarded him sannyas, Prabhupada was now speaking more of how his own spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, had called him and saved him and made him take sannyas through his sannyas guru. I have not lost anything, Prabhupada said. He was so kind upon me. I have gained. I left 3 children. I have now got 300 children. This is 1968 or 9 or something. So I am not the loser. This is material conception. We think that we should be loser by accepting Krishna. Nobody is loser. I say from my practical experience, I was thinking that, how can I accept this renounced order of life? I cannot accept so much trouble. But I retired from my family life. I was sitting alone in Vrindavan, writing books. So this, my godbrother, he insisted, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, this title was given me in my family life, Bhaktivedanta. It was offered to me by the Vaishnava society. So he insisted, practically my spiritual master insisted me through him that you accept. Because without accepting the renounced order of life, nobody can become a preacher. So whether you take it literally or by practical attitude, one must have the attitude to be a preacher, sannyas attitude. So he wanted me to become a preacher. So he forced me through this godbrother. You accept. So unwillingly I accepted. Then I remembered that he wanted me to go to the Western country. Now this is very interesting, is that Srila Prabhupada, before approaching Bhakti Bhajan Keshava Maharaj to ask him if he would give him sannyas, actually he didn't approach him according to what Prabhupada says here. Bhakti Bhajan Keshava Maharaj forced him. It's written differently in different places, but this is Prabhupada's own words. But he had approached another godbrother, Bhaktivilas Tirtha, who was previously Kunja Bihari, in the Chaitanya Mat in Calcutta, who was considered to be the senior disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj by many. And he'd approached him to take sannyas, but he didn't get the same, you could say, response from him. In April 59, Abai wrote to Tirtha Maharaj inquiring about sannyas as well as about the Chaitanya Math's printing some of his manuscripts. And since no one was going abroad, he volunteered to do so on behalf of the Chaitanya Math. Bhaktivilas Tirtha Maharaj replied that Abai should first join the Chaitanya Math. And then we'll see, it goes on, I won't read it all, I'll summarize. And then it goes on to say how, don't worry, we will look after you. We have nice, comfortable rooms, nice, airy, comfortable rooms, and we will provide all your necessities. And perhaps in due course of time, if you associate with us, we may award you the sannyas. And as far as the manuscripts are concerned, we have other priorities. In the future, our editing board may look at your manuscripts and we will consider. But right now we have the books of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the Goswamis, which are not in print, which are priorities. As far as going to the West is concerned, he discouraged him pretty much entirely, that it's not the time to go to the West. If we consider in the future you qualify, we might send you there, but you have to, first of all, become qualified by working under our direction in the Chaitanya Mat. So he wasn't very encouraged by, he could understand Tirtha Maharaj's position, and that they had no money also. They were struggling to maintain. So he could understand that, but it was very discouraging. And he almost lost the idea of taking sannyas, and it was Bhajan Keshava Maharaj who insisted, when Prabhupada was a close friend with Bhajan Keshava Maharaj. Bhajan Keshava Maharaj was the the spiritual master of Narayan Maharaj. You must have heard of Narayan Maharaj. So he insisted. He said, if you want to preach, if you want to fulfill the order you've got from our Guru Maharaj, you have to take sannyas, otherwise it's not going to work. Of course, in the Western world, people don't take it so seriously as they do in India. They still do take it a little bit seriously, at least. It's an important thing in that regards. Let's move on. Yeah. Anyway, I better summarize this other part here. I was sitting alone. Okay, we're going to go to a little other section now. This is, again, Prabhupada talking. The spark of love for Krishna is struck by the spiritual master, the pure devotee. As for myself, my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupad, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, ordered me to take up the responsibility of spreading Krishna consciousness in the Western world. His Divine Grace had a great desire to preach Lord Chaitanya's message in the West, and my success is both His grace and pleasure. And here's Prabhupada speaking on the occasion of either the appearance or disappearance, I don't know, it doesn't say here. Very auspicious day, Prabhupada says, because it is all arrangement of His Divine Grace. Om Vishnupad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Prabhupada's voice chokes up. My beloved spiritual master. He is seeing. He had a great desire to preach Lord Chaitanya's message in the Western world. And I am sure he will be pleased to see so many young boys and girls are seriously engaged in preaching the gospel of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is my success. And we go on. We'll chop out all the things in between. And we're going to reach now, I think, in 1920. We're going back to 1922 as the first meeting of Srila Prabhupada with his spiritual master. At that time, Srila Prabhupada he'd given up his university degree because he joined Gandhi's movement, more or less. He was known as a Gandhian. When he came to see Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he was dressed like a Gandhian. You know, that hat and the cutty and so on. But Prabhupada, we know he was born in a very advanced Vaishnava family. His father was a pure devotee also. So he was brought up like that, but he didn't come across any devotees, really. And mostly everyone he met, in terms of saintly so-called sadhus, were all either Mayavadis or somewhat materialistic. He wasn't impressed at all. So he didn't take it very seriously. And even his meeting with his spiritual master was an interesting affair. Now, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, here we go. Okay, I'll read this. And of course, now Prabhupada, okay, this is on the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj in 1969. Prabhupada's friend, Narendranath Mullik, had basically dragged Prabhupada, says himself. I wasn't wanting to go. He practically forced me to go to see this sadhu. I said, I've seen so many sadhus. I'm not impressed. They're all kind of like, teachers or Mayavadis or something. I'm not really interested. What will I get from going to see another sadhu? I've seen so many. But he insisted this one is not the same. This is a genuine sadhu, and his friend practically forced him to come there. At that time, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj had just started his Gaudiya Math mission, and they only had basically one outlet. That was in a suburb of Calcutta called Altadungi. And now Iskcon has acquired that property. Some of you have been there. And it's fallen, and basically it was almost, you could say, a wreck, or what's the word? Almost like a devastated, the whole building was broken. And Iskcon acquired the building, and Radhanath Swami headed up the renovations, and now it's amazing. You have to go there if you go to Calcutta. It's one of the most wonderful places I've ever been. It's really worth going to. You can really feel the atmosphere so intensely, where Prabhupada first met his Guru Maharaj on the roof of that house. He had his grihastas were staying downstairs. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was on the roof, staying up top. So that's where he first met him. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was giving open darshan, so to speak. And Prabhupada, I'm just taking up at this point. And of course, our Prabhupada is saying, he, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, was speaking to everyone, but he found me as something. So immediately after, now this is something which is misunderstood, misquoted. So immediately after my meeting, he said this, not before, after. Why don't you preach this Chaitanya cult in the Western countries? You usually hear, as soon as he arrived, he said it. That's not what Prabhupada said. This is Prabhupada's words. Immediately after my meeting, he said this, that why don't you preach this Chaitanya cult in the Western countries? That is a memorable day. Of course, I did not know that I will have to do it. You see? Prabhupada started laughing. Because he was speaking to everyone, in one sense, but then he singled out Prabhupada, our Prabhupada. I could not understand that time on my first visit, His Divine Grace, that it was necessary for educated boys like me to go to foreign countries and preach the gospel of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I replied that India was a foreign-dominated nation, that no one would hear any message from a person who was coming from a dependent nation. I mean, pretty much that's how it was. The British didn't think they had anything to learn from anyone on the planet, basically. They were, gods on earth. They were the gurus of the planet. What to speak of, poverty-stricken, barbaric, backward country like India, as they looked at it. They tried to deprecate it to a country of, voodoo and this and that. They were envious, but then in the public eye they did that. Actually, Prabhupada said, we must first have independence. Actually, at the time, foreigners considered Indians very insignificant because in the face of so many independent nations, India was still dependent, being dominated by Britain. At the time, there was one Bengali poet who actually lamented that even uncivilized nations like China, Japan were independent, whereas India was dependent on the British. Then Guru Maharaj, my first meeting, my actual connection was not there with a guru, but ultimately he was guru. He argued with me and very nicely explained to me, and I was defeated also. Not much is said about that argument other than the fact that Krishna consciousness can't wait for independence or whatever it is. His Divine Grace convinced me that dependence and independence are simply temporary conditions, and he pointed out that because we are concerned with the eternal benefit of humanity, we should take up this challenge of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This meeting with His Divine Grace, my Guru Maharaj, took place in 1922. Now it's over a century ago. I was convinced about his argument and mode of presentation. I was so much struck with wonder. I could understand that here is the proper person who can give real religious idea. That I appreciated at that time. And at that time I thought, this great personality is asking me to preach. I would have immediately joined, but now I am married. It will be injustice. Of course, I thought like that, in that way. Of course, my Guru Maharaj did not say anything that you give up your family life. No, he never said. He simply gave the idea. So I thought it would have been better if I was not married. But he was married. He would have been married 4 years. I was also convinced that when he had a kid, I was also convinced that the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was then in the hands of a very expert devotee, and that surely the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would spread all over the world. I could not, however, immediately take up his instructions to preach, but I took his words very seriously and was always thinking of how to execute his order, although I was quite unfit to do so. A young man I was at the time, and I was also misled in so many ways, but my spiritual master saved me, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. So the spiritual master's duty is to save the living entities who are so much embarrassed by the forest fire. That is the duty of spiritual master, Samsara Dava Nalalita Loka. So His Divine Grace, my spiritual master, somehow or another, liked me, that I should take up this responsibility. But I am very much thankful to that friend that he forcibly took me to His Divine Grace. I think quite a lot of clarification in Prabhupada's words there. We'll move forward, 1922, we move forward to 1936. Just on the 13th of December, I wrote him one letter, Prabhupada saying. No, not the 13th. I think at the beginning of December 36, I wrote one letter to Guru Maharaj. I knew he was a little kind upon me, so I wrote that, Guru Maharaj, you have got many disciples, I am also one of them, but they are doing direct service to you. Some of them are brahmacharis, some of them sannyasis, but I'm a householder, I cannot. Of course, I was giving sometimes some monetary help, but I could not give any direct service, so I asked him if there is any particular service I can do for you. So that letter was replied in 13th of December, dated from Puri, and he passed away on the 31st, so just a fortnight before. So the reply was the same as he wanted me to do this preaching work in 1922 when I first met him. And he wrote back saying, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj wrote, I am fully confident that you can explain in English our thoughts and arguments to the people who are not conversant with the languages of the other members. This will do much good to yourself as well as your audience. I have every hope that you can turn yourself into a very good English preacher. If you serve the mission to inculcate the novel impression of Lord Chaitanya's teachings to the people in general, as well as philosophers and religionists. You try to preach whatever you have learned from me, the English-knowing people in English, to the English-knowing people in English. That will do good to you and to the people to whom you shall preach. You will be benefited, and even the world will be benefited. That is my instruction. So I took it up. In this way, I was inspired by my Guru Maharaj all the time, but because of my incompetence from 1922 into 1965, I was just planning. I did not get any chance, but by some reason or the other, then by God's mercy, by following the instructions of Guru Maharaj, I reached New York. So I never thought I would have to take up this matter by his order. Anyway, no, this is another quote now. That was the end of that quote. So I never thought that I would have to take up this matter by his order. Prabhupada said like that, so sometimes he was thinking differently. So anyway, I was officially initiated in 1933. In 1935, Prabhupada also recalls, I have no personal qualification, but I simply tried to satisfy my Guru. That's all. My Guru Maharaj asked me that, and this is Prabhupada reflecting on 1935, not that he wrote this. He's giving a lecture talking about November 1935. And he says, my Guru Maharaj asked me that if you get some money, you print books. So there was a private meeting talking. Some of my important godbrothers, they were also there. It was in Radhakund. This is another, a slight misdemeanor, it's all nice sentiment, but it wasn't walking along the banks of Radhakund. It was in the house that Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was staying in Radhakund. This conversation took place. So Guru Maharaj was speaking to me that since we have got this Bag Bazaar marble temple, there has been so many dissensions. And everyone's thinking, who will occupy this room or that room, that room? I wish, therefore, to sell this temple and the marble and print some books. Yes. So I took this from his mouth, that he is very fond of books. And he told me personally, if you get some money, print books. He didn't want to break the temple, but because devotees were considering it belonged to them. This is my room. This is my this, my that. Well, what is the use of this? It has no value. It's the very opposite to what we're meant to be, our attitudes going the wrong way. So he said, better we just tear off the marbles and print books. That was his movement, very famous quote. That was an arrival address in LA, Prabhupada spoke. And this, I don't know, I didn't have time to really get this in order. So I was dreaming, Prabhupada said, this is not from the arrival address, this is some other time. So I was dreaming sometimes that my Guru Maharaj is calling me and I'm leaving my home and going behind him. I was dreaming like that. And I was thinking, oh, I have to give up my home? My Guru Maharaj wants me to give up my home life and take sannyas? Oh, I was thinking, it's horrible. How can I leave my home? This is called Maya. Prabhupada was describing his own attitude as Maya. So I was thinking, how can I take sannyas and leave home, children? I was thinking seriously, Prabhupada said, oh, I'll have to take this course Guru Maharaj wants. This is at different times he's speaking. But actually I did not like to give up my family life. But Guru Maharaj made me obliged to give up my family, home life. So now by his order or by his plan, I gave up my home life. I gave up a few children, but Guru Maharaj is so kind, he has given me so many nice children. Actually, I was not worthy of any one of the words spoken by you. This Vyasa Puja, now devotees are offering praises to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada is saying, I am not worthy of any one of the words spoken by you, but all of them are due to my spiritual master who was so kind to me. In fact, I'm a worthless person because my spiritual master ordered me to take up this work in 22, but I did not carry his order till 58, when I was obliged to carry out his order by his arrangement only. This means, although I was not very enthusiastic to carry out his order, he forced me circumstantially to accept it. So this is his special mercy upon me, and I always think about this with gratitude, so that this exalted personality coming directly from Vaikuntha world, and we had the great fortune to meet him. I think that is the only credit on our part, that we happened to meet him by some agyata sukriti, unknown auspicious activity. He's so kind upon me that when I came to your country where I was completely unknown, he sent to me some good souls like you, unsolicited. So I accept you all as assistants or representatives of my Guru Maharaj, who is still helping me because I'm so feeble and unworthy. Anyway, the business which we have taken to work together is neither your business nor my business, as far as we are personally concerned, but it is the business of Lord Chaitanya and his bona fide servants like my Guru Maharaj. Therefore it is the duty of all of us to execute it as nicely and as far as possible within our capacity. In other words, we should just try to discharge our responsible duties faithfully and seriously. Then all facilities will come for our help. And now we're going to go to the actual scene of today's event, with Prabhupada actually accepting sannyas, which he was now convinced he had to do in order to fulfill the order of his spiritual master, which would, if Lord so desired, meant to go to the Western world and preach Krishna consciousness, in one sense becoming an acharya. Srila Prabhupada, I was sitting alone in Vrindavan writing. We read that. Yeah. So Prabhupada then agreed to accept sannyas from Keshava Maharaj, and because Keshava Maharaj, the mat in Mathura is named after him. It's the Keshavji Gaudiya mat, it's famous mat in Mathura. And Prabhupada went there to receive sannyas from his sannyas guru, Godbrother. Keshavji Gaudiya mat was located in the midst of one of Mathura's downtown bazaars. His main entrance, an arched doorway, led into a courtyard. Any of you been there? Yes. Keshavji Gaudiya mat, you've been there? It's not very big. It's a nice temple. It led into a courtyard open to the sky through a metal grating above. Keep the monkeys out. The architecture was similar to that of the Vamsi Gopalji temple. This is 1959 August, so Prabhupada was still staying in the Vamsi Gopalji temple in Vrindavan, which is very near the Radha Gokulananda temple, if you know Vrindavan at all. It's actually a house, it belongs to a family, but they have a temple there. And Prabhupada was staying there. In fact, Prabhupada stayed there till 1962. There's another, let's say, misunderstanding of sorts. Prabhupada did not stay in the Radha Damodar temple until 1962 at all. He stayed in the Vamsi Gopalji temple. He moved to the Radha Damodar temple in 1962. And even then, he only spent maybe not even half of his time there. He was always traveling here, there, and everywhere. So we didn't spend much time, a year and a half maybe, in the Radha Damodar temple. The atmosphere was secluded as in the monastery. Habe was familiar, well configured here. It wasn't very busy. Temples were not overly populated by visitors in those days. He had lived here, written, and studied in the library here. Prabhupada had stayed there before with Keshava Maharaj. He'd spent a lot of time there, writing on his publications and so on. And he was also editing the magazine Gaudiya Patrika on behalf of Keshava Maharaj. Prabhupada also donated the deity of Lord Chaitanya, who stood on the altar beside the deities of Radha and Krishna. Prabhupada brought this deity from Calcutta, and the deity is still there. He donated the deity to the Keshavji mat. But his visit during September of 59 was not an ordinary one. He entered the mat dressed in white, Abai Babu, but he would soon be leaving dressed in saffron, the Swami. Habe had been living as a renunciate for 9 years. There was no need for him to observe a ceremony or to proclaim himself a sadhu by changing to saffron dress. This you will find, of course, in the Prabhupada Lilamrita. This is directly from Lilamrita. But it was the Parampara system that a man take to Dandi sannyas at the end of his life. He was aware of the cheating sannyasis, even in Vrindavan. He had seen so-called sadhus who did not preach but simply spent their days hunting for chapatis. And you still see long rows of them walking around Vrindavan, going for wherever there's a feast. They seem to have, I don't know if they have mobile phones, but they all seem to know where the feasts are. You know? And they turn up, along hundreds of them, all in lines, going here and there to the next feast. Where are the chapatis? Some swamis of Vrindavan even indulge illicitly in what they had supposedly come here to reject, sex life. Such persons were making a mockery of sannyas. And there were the Kasko swamis also who lived like ordinary householders, running temples as a business to support their families and accepting honor and donations from the public on the false basis of birth. Habe knew of these abuses of sannyas, but he also knew the real purpose of sannyas. Sannyas was for preaching. On the morning of September 17th, 1959, in the 50 by 25 foot deity room on the second floor of the Keshavji mat, a group of devotees sat before the deities of Radha and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Of course, this is writer's license here, Satsrup Maharaj's writing. The deities were colorfully dressed in royal clothing and silver crowns. I don't know if there's confirmation, but anyway, maybe. Radha on his right hand faced palm forward in benediction for the worshipper. At her side, her left hand held a flower for Krishna. Krishna stood like a dancer, placing his right leg in a casual tiptoe pose before his left, playing his long silver flute, which he held gracefully to his red lips. His long black hair reached down past his shoulders, and the garland of marigolds around his neck reached down to his knees. On his right stood the deity of Lord Chaitanya, his right arm raised, left arm at his side, his body straight, feet together. He was a soft golden color, and he had large eyes, a well-formed red mouth, and straight black hair down to his shoulders. One level down, the deities were pictures of the spiritual masters in disciplic succession: Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaurkishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. Abai sat on a mat of kusha grass beside 90-year-old Sanatan, also to receive sannyas that day. He was a little old. Sitting opposite the two candidates, Narayan Maharaj, Keshav Maharaj's disciple, prepared to conduct the ceremony of mantras and offering of grains and ghee into the fire. Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji, Abhai's godbrother, known for sweet singing, played mridanga and sang Vaishnava bhajans. Sitting on a raised asan, His Holiness Keshav Maharaj presided. Since there had been no notices or invitations, only the mass few residents attended. Narayan Maharaj chanted the required mantras and then sat back silently while Keshav Maharaj lectured. Then, to everyone's surprise, Keshav Maharaj asked Abai to speak. Abai had not expected this. As he looked around at the gathering of devotees, he understood that the common language was Hindi. Only Keshav Maharaj and a few others spoke English. Yet he knew he must speak in English. After Abai's speech, each initiate received his sannyas danda, the traditional head-high staff made of 4 bamboo rods bound together and completely enwrapped in saffron cloth. They were given their sannyas garments, 1 piece of saffron cloth for a dhoti, and 1 for a top piece, and 2 strips for underwear. They also received tulsi neck beads and the sannyas mantra. Keshav Maharaj said that Abai would now be known as Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, and that Sanatan would be Muni Maharaj. Keshav Maharaj did not impose any strictures on Abai. He simply encouraged him to go on preaching, yet Abai knew that to become A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami did not mean merely that he was giving up family, home comforts and business. That he had done for 5 years. Changing from white cloth to saffron, from Abai Babu to Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, had a special significance. It was the mandate he had required, the irrevocable commitment. Now it was only a matter of time before Bhaktivedanta Swami would travel to the west, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had ordained. This was Bhaktivedanta Swami's realization of his new sannyas status. The Gaudiya Patrika's account of the sannyas initiation included a biographical sketch of Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, listing the major events of his life. The article concluded, seeing his enthusiasm and ability to write articles in Hindi, English and Bengali, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave him the instruction to take Tridandi sannyas. For nearly 1 year he had been ready to accept sannyas. In the month of Bhadra, on the day of which Vishwarupa accepted sannyas, Bhaktivedanta Swami at the Sri Keshavji Gaudiya Math accepted sannyas from the founder of the Vedanta Samiti, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. Seeing him accept his ashram of renunciation, seeing this pastime for accepting the renounced order of life, we have attained great affection and enthusiasm. Krishna. So no one in the whole world outside the Keshav Gaudiya Math knew what was going on. Huh? Nobody could have dreamt what the future was going to be. Nobody. Huh? Really speaking. Huh? That a worldwide mission was about to begin. No one could have thought of that. Nobody. What to speak of in the West, nobody even was aware of anything to do with it whatsoever. The philosophy, the objective goal, the practice, the personalities, nothing. Absolutely zero. When Prabhupada came to Boston, New York. Nobody in America except for Gopal Agarwal, who was kind of shocked when he heard the Swami was coming. He never expected him to come in his wildest dreams. And he said, honey, oh my God, get this, the Swami is coming. Honey was his wife. They call, in America, the husbands call their wife honey. He's actually, because he'd written many invitations on behalf of his father before, inviting some sadhus to the West, but nobody ever came. He said, my God, he's coming. He's arriving. He was shocked. And he was the only one in America who knew he was coming. Nobody else had a clue. They knew what he was. And now you know, Prabhupada's coming to the Western world now. There's millions of devotees all over the world. In India, so many have taken up this mission seriously. And even here in Paris. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, that's it. You okay? Is it all right? Oh, Harinam Sankirtan, is it going out this morning?